Alright, next up is the nitrous. So it's all in here. Flip this up. I've got a wiring diagram here that goes over all the relays, how the shift light is hooked up, because there's a shift light right there. You can program that to whatever you want. I've also got the bottle heater diagram. I've got a nitrous controller on this car, and all the wiring is in here. I just kept it right here in this little compartment. So this is pretty self-explanatory. To turn on the nitrous, you just turn on that switch. To turn on your bottle heater, you turn on that switch. And then you got your purge button. I don't know if you can hear it on camera, but right now it's trying to purge. With both of these off, you won't be able to purge. That's fine. Now, in the glove box, well, first of all, there's some more nitrous jets and fuel jets for your nitrous. Right here, I don't know if you can see it. That's a Dyno 2 nitrous controller. So, I'm going to turn the nitrous on. That activates the nitrous controller. So I'm going to include directions on how to use this. Right now it's set up. You don't have to do anything with it. It's set up to spray 100% all the time whenever you floor it, because that's also going to double as your wide open throttle switch. Again, I'll send you all that information on how to use it if you want to. You can program a ramp in there. With this car, I'm only spraying at most a 50 shot or maybe a 75 on a dyno. You don't really need it. It's kind of overkill, but it's just something nice to have. All right, the next thing I want to show you is, I told you this car had a billet alternator. It's got a Nations alternator. You'll see it. If you pop the hood, you'll see it. It's a nice shiny little alternator. But what I've done is, for years, this is the inner fender liner out of the driver's side fender. Because up in the fender, let's see if I can get it on camera. It's really hard to see. But this little blue box right there, that is your adjustable regulator for the alternator. And there's a little blue box with a set screw right there that controls the voltage going back to your battery. Right now I've got it set to charge the battery at 14.3 volts. I wouldn't mess with it, but that's the reason why the fender liner is out of this car, okay? I'm going to throw this in the back trunk of the car, so if you want to put it back in, obviously you can. You don't have to have it out. I've had it out for years. I just never got around to putting it back in, okay? Go around to the back of the trunk. I always keep a battery tender on the car when it's just sitting. It's been sitting for a while since you've bought the car, so I don't want to be driving around your car. But that's your battery. This cover goes on here. It'll be on there once you get the car. This is your kill switch. So if you aren't going to be driving the car that often and you do have a battery tender, I would recommend putting one on. If not, if you know you're not going to drive the car for a while, go ahead and push this in. That makes sure that the battery does not charge anything, and it basically isolates the entire car from the battery just by pushing that in. And if you want to start the car, you pull this back out and the car will start. That is the intercooler tank in the back. This guy right here, this is your drain, okay? So there's your intercooler tank. And what I would do when I get the car home, right now that just has regular city water in this tank. I would drain that out by turning this knob, and there's a drain on the bottom, so make sure you've got a bucket or you do it out in the street or something. Go ahead and turn this valve this way. All the water will drain out. Then you can fill it up with 50/50 antifreeze or some water wetter, whatever you use to winterize your cars. You don't want that tank to freeze because that wouldn't be very good. There's your nitrous. There's all the wiring. I think I showed this on the one video, with the exception, I think in my video I had a booster pump there. I took that thing out a while ago. It didn't do anything. So it just runs off of battery voltage now. So there's all your relays all labeled. Alright, and last but not least, I'll just show you a little bit more under the hood. got the hood struts on it, so you don't have the hood prop. The hood stays up on its own. As I mentioned, the radiator. This is where you fill your radiator. I would go ahead and drain the water out of it and put in some coolant or something. That way, when it freezes over by you, you don't hurt anything in the radiator or break something. You know, my camera's kind of freaking out right now. Well, hopefully this is coming out because I don't know what's going on with my camera. Really nothing to do under the hood. Oh, I know. This line right here and the line right here. Right here. This goes to a catch can, and you can follow these lines underneath the car. It's a little too low for me to show you, but up underneath the bumper, there's a catch can. And periodically, if you drive the car a couple hundred miles, just go underneath there and try to drain that catch can. You might get some water and some condensation out of it. That's all this is designed to do. These fittings just pull right out. I mean, they're not under a lot of pressure. They're just meant to vent everything into a catch can instead of venting it out to atmosphere. So that's pretty much it, man. Underneath the hood is pretty simple. You got your nitrous solenoids there. Little VMP blower. That's your fuel regulator right here. You shouldn't have to mess with anything underneath the hood. This is your oil dipstick. So when you do change the oil, I've used AMSOIL, racing oil, but you don't have to. I mean, that stuff's really, really, really expensive. I don't think or know if it's any better than Mobil 1. If you want to use Mobil 1, use a full synthetic motor oil. That'll help keep everything in tip-top shape and protected. So that's your oil dipstick. And the transmission dipstick is right there on the other side of the engine. So again, you shouldn't have to mess with that either. That's been changed. I think I want to say I changed that about 1.5 years ago, and it's just transmission fluid. It should last forever. So that's pretty much it. You should know how to drive the car. Right now, it's got a tune in it for 18 degrees of timing, which is more than adequate for the street. You shouldn't have to run any more timing, but I've got 3 tunes on the tuner for you. I've got a tune for 16 degrees of timing, a tune for 18 degrees of timing, which is what's in there now, and a tune for 20 degrees. So if you decide to go out racing, by all means, throw the 20 degree tune in there and let this bitch eat and see what she'll do, because it'll be fun to drive around the track, that's for sure. So let me know if you have any questions, man.